Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. My guest today is the former head of RNAW and someone whose knowledge and understanding of militancy, Kashmir and terrorism is probably unsurpassed in our country. He believes that Thursday's terror attack in the Bimbar Gali area of Poonch, when 5 army Jawans were killed and 6 left critically injured, is a wake-up call that should ring alarm bells in Delhi. Joining me now to more fully explain his opinion is Amarjeet Singh Dulat. Mr. Dulat, let's start with the reason why we're holding this interview today. What is it about Thursday's attack in the Bimbar Gali area of Poonch, which left 5 army Jawans dead and 1 critically injured, worries you so much? Why do you think it's a wake-up call that should ring alarm bells in Delhi?
It worries me basically for 2 reasons. One is the timing of it. And the second is the kind of attack. It was a big attack, It was a dastardly attack. It's a scary thing, Chinese bullets and attacked from all sides. And, the PAFF have gone into great detail into explaining. And they've incidentally also said they're going to put out a video of the whole thing. So it's very scary. Plus, we talked about very inclement weather and things. They said the weather was fine. There was no lightning, there was no thunder, there was no heavy rain, there was no rain at all. So our narrative is being challenged by the PAFF.
The PAFF is the People's Anti-Fascist Front.
That's right.
Which is a proxy for the Jaish-e-Mohammed, who claimed responsibility in a tweet.
That's right. The Jaish is involved. And the ISI is involved. There's no 2 ways on that.
So let's go back to why you're worried. A, the nature and size and scale of the attack, which you said is dastardly and scary.
Absolutely.
Secondly, the PFF, who did it and have claimed responsibility, are challenging the Indian narrative and threatening to put out a video.
That's right.
What about the timing? That was another reason why you think this is worrying. What about the timing is worrying?
You see, it's been a very calm, quiet, silent, peaceful Ramzan. And as we were coming to the end of it, this attack took place. And I always had this feeling that when Ramzan is peaceful, then you don't know what's going to happen. And it happened in 2016 also, although that time Ramzan was in June.
So you're worried that this is a sign of worse to come?
That's right.
In other words,
nail on the head. Yeah, that's right.
When you rang me up and we set up this interview, you said to me that militancy was reviving, terror was reviving, and it worried you.
That's right.
And the next day, on Saturday, the Hindustan Times corroborated what you had said on the phone on Friday. The Hindustan Times said, and I'm quoting, "This is the 4th incident in which the Indian Army has suffered casualties in the Poonch-Rajouri area." Why do you believe militancy and terrorism are reviving and picking up?
See, I'd like to make a differentiation here between militancy and terrorism. Militancy, I believe, is indigenous, our boys involved. And terrorism is what comes from across, where the ISI is involved, and the Jaish, the Lashkar, and the remnants of the Hizb, which are in Kashmir. Incidentally, they are all, as I see it now, they're all working together. So that also is scary.
But why do you believe militancy is reviving? First, to talk about that.
You see, militancy, as I say, is mostly indigenous. It is indigenous, let me put it like that. And although there may be not so many attacks at the same time, but one gets the sense that an attack is just around the corner. Incidentally, I heard that at least this is what the Lashkar proxy, whatever it is, the resistance front has claimed that they attacked the CRPF yesterday in Srinagar.
You mean
True
Sunday?
or
You mean Sunday?
Sunday, that's right. True or false? I mean, this is their narrative. The J&K police has denied it, saying the car skidded and it hurt some CRPF jawans.
So there was another incident on Sunday where there are disputed narratives.
That's right. That's right.
The CRPF claiming the car skidded,
Yeah,
but the resistance front calling it a terror attack.
that's right.
And this adds to your fear that we're going to see
My
more
point
such attacks.
is, that's absolutely. So whether it's happening or not happening, there are still people wanting to put it out that it's happening. You know, that's what the resistance front is there for. Actually, it's a front of the
You also
of the
said to
Lashkar.
me on the phone when we spoke and set up this interview that what worries you about the militancy is that in response to the muscular treatment, it's been driven deep down, it's
Yeah.
become subterranean and invisible, and we don't know when it will pop up or where it will pop up. Explain that point further.
You see, when we spoke last time, about a year and a half ago, I mentioned the same thing to you. It was scary then also, that terror had come to the heart of Kashmir, Srinagar. That normally has not happened. Most of the terror we've seen, or militancy we've seen, has been in the south. And when it happens, I've always believed, when it happens in the north of Baramulla and beyond, then it becomes more dangerous.
And that's what's happening now.
And that's what's happening now. And so if that happens, then it's going to be more deadly.
Pick up on that point you made on the phone to me that it's gone invisible, it's subterranean, it's been driven deep down. That means we don't know about the state of militancy.
You see, when a population goes silent, and I'm talking of the valley, what happened the other day happened in Jammu, in Punch Rajouri area. When a population goes silent, like in the valley, then intelligence tends to dry up. And we then also, when we are concentrating on our muscular policy, which has paid dividends, let me make it very clear, then intelligence tends to suffer. We don't get what we should be getting.
So we have poor intelligence at the moment.
I'm not saying poor intelligence.
But not as good as it should
not
be.
Not the best intelligence.
So two things have happened simultaneously. Militancy has been driven deep, subterranean. We don't know about it. And our intelligence as a result is not as good as it should be.
I think so.
You said something else on the phone when we set up this interview. You said that many of the targeted killings that were happening earlier and happen from time to time, those killers have not been caught. You're worried that they're still on the loose. You're also worried more may have come to join them.
That's right. That's right. I was worried when these targeted things, because it looked like a very professional job, you know. And I one of the questions I asked people in Kashmir then was, or in Srinagar, that are they using these silencer weapons? And I still haven't got an answer to that. But what I heard was that no, they're normal weapons. You can hear that somebody shooting, but yet nobody got caught.
As I hear you, there are three elements that cause you grave concern and, to use your word, make the Kashmir situation look scary. One, militancy has been driven deep down. We don't know about it.
We don't know enough about it.
Secondly, as a result, our intelligence is nowhere near as good as it should be.
Yeah.
And thirdly, the killers who did these targeted killings have not been caught. They're still there, able to do more, and others may have joined them and added to their numbers.
Could be.
All three worry you.
Absolutely.
So this is why you are scared. This is why you think
I'm worried, yeah.
worse could happen.
I hope not, but yeah, it worries me.
Let's talk specifically about what happened on Thursday at Bimber Gali. And I should add, for the sake of the audience, that all the details we have are taken from the media. Now, first of all, the Indian Express on Saturday said, according to military sources, the vehicle was part of a small convoy of 2-3 vehicles with minimal security. The Hindu on the same day, Saturday, actually painted an even more worrying picture. The Hindu said the vehicle was on a solitary drive in the area despite heightened militant activities in the region. And the timeline suggested by the Hindustan Times, again on Saturday, clearly shows that for 50 or 55 minutes, the army and the police were not able to reach the area where the attack happened. Now, you understand Kashmir better than me, and you know this region. If you take all these three together, does it suggest that the army dropped its guard?
You see, the army could have dropped its guard. This happens quite often. When nothing happens for a while, we take it. Everything is normal. Everything is hunky dory.
We become complacent.
We become complacent. It's happened many times at many places.
And it looks as if it's happened again.
It could be, yeah. And but it's like you said, it's very difficult terrain. It's not easy. And Bimbar Gully is very deep into the forest and right next to the border. This whole area, it has fault lines. The DNA there is very peculiar. A lot of the population has relatives across, and some of those relatives could be working for the ISI. So it's.
In other words, there could be people who are spies in this area.
It's a playground for spies. Let me tell you that.
The Bimbar Gully area.
The Bimbar Gully area. There are people there who work for both sides, and it's a cottage industry. They're involved in spying. They're involved in smuggling.
What about Surankot, which is very close?
Yeah, Surankot is worse. It's a bowl where terrorists who come from Pakistan enter there, and then, like we say in the IPL, they take a strategic timeout. They spend a couple of days there, during which they can be involved in an action, or they just pass through.
Could there be ISI agents in Surankot?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
There could be.
So this area,
and this whole thing which has happened could have been masterminded by those guys in Surankot. Surankot is a hostile place.
Let me just sum up for the audience what you're saying about the Bimbar Gully area. It's a playground for spies. Many of the people who live there have relatives on the other side of the border and could be working for both sides together.
That's right.
Surankot, as you said, absolutely has ISI agents.
Yeah. Quite
this is why
I don't know if they have, but it's quite possible.
This is why this is a hostile area.
It is a hostile area. In fact, if you see the border, Poonch is very stable, and I believe it's stable because of a substantial Sikh population. But some of the houses in Poonch are half in Pakistan and half this side. So we are sitting on the border there, this whole area which we are talking about, it's right on the border. A couple of kilometers there and
in the background and context of what you've just said about the Bimbar Gully area, a playground for spies, ISI agents in Surankot, a hostile territory, right? People with relatives on both sides who are probably working for both sides.
Yes,
Against that background, I want to draw your attention to what Vijeta Singh, one of our best informed correspondents, wrote in the Hindu yesterday, Sunday. She said that 90 minutes before this attack happened on Thursday, the road had been sanitized. The attack happened apparently at 3 o'clock. The sanitization finished at 1:30. There was just a 90-minute gap between the end of sanitization and the attack. Secondly, she said, an army convoy was supposed to pass down this route, but that was suddenly cancelled. She doesn't explain why, but it was suddenly cancelled. Yet, a solitary vehicle went down. Now, as a layman reading that, two questions came to my mind, and I want to put them to you. First of all, does this not raise questions about the quality of sanitization? If an attack can happen 90 minutes after you just sanitize the area, doesn't that raise questions?
Like you said, the army's guard was down. When your guard is down, then sanitization or no sanitization, it becomes very routine. Somebody's gone up and down, everything's all right. And actually, it's a case of the watcher being watched, Although this truck was supposed to be carrying goodies for an iftar party, but these are normal patrols, and these guys who committed this dastardly act would be watching these vehicles go up and down. It's not as if they suddenly arrived and shot at this vehicle.
Let me raise the second question that Vijeta's story brings to my mind. If an army convoy was supposed to pass down this route, but it was abruptly cancelled at the last moment, was it wise to allow a solitary vehicle to go on its own?
Now, since we are presuming that the army let its guard down, so then wisdom obviously is lost in all this, You're happy, you're carrying goodies for an iftar party. And actually that village never celebrated Eid, I'm told.
Wisdom was not applied. That's what your words were.
That's right. When your guard is down, obviously where is wisdom?
This was an unwise thing to let happen.
Yes, sir. When the guard is down, then unwise things happen.
Let's talk a little bit more, based upon newspaper reports, about what happened on Thursday. According to the Indian Express, the army vehicle was hit from all sides, indicating that the attackers were possibly hiding on both sides of the road. And then, according to the Hindu, Chinese-made armor-piercing bullets were used, as well as rocket-propelled grenades. To me, that suggests that the terrorists were both well-armed, but also well-prepared.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think we still have a full picture of what and how it happened. It'll take a while if we get that picture at all. But what is interesting and what is scary here is that the People's Anti-Fascist Front, which, as I say, is a proxy for the Jaish, has put out a whole narrative of how it happened, point by point by point. That first the driver was shot, then the guy next to him was shot, then grenades were hurled at the petrol tank, and then the other guys at the back was shot. One guy who was trying to run was caught hold of and shot, and they went away with the army weapons as well. Now, true or false, this is the PAFF narrative. And they have also said they're going to put out a video on this.
And this is worrying, because
very worrying. I mean,
because of the detail it gives you.
Not only that, but if they really have a video, because the other thing which came when this attack first happened was that it was a lightning attack. It was raining very heavily. All this has been disputed by the PAFF. They said nonsense. There was no rain at all.
And if the terrorists...
Now either the PAFF is going to concoct a video and then put it out, but it's scary all the same that they know what's going on. We don't know what's going on.
This reminds me of something you said on the phone when we set up this interview. I wasn't going to bring it up, but now I will. You said to me, there are many instances when the terrorists are a step or two ahead of us. They're smarter than us. They get the better of us.
Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. Otherwise, these attacks would not happen. So there is no such thing as foolproof security. There is no such thing as foolproof intelligence. Otherwise, even 9/11 would not have happened.
But is it not worrying, because it will be to the audience, that a man who's been head of RAW, a man who understands Kashmir and the Bimbergali area in particular, says the terrorists are often 1 or 2 steps ahead of us?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Is that lack of preparedness on our army's part or on our system as a whole?
It's a combination of a few things which you already pointed to. One is, lack of preparedness, putting your guard down, not getting accurate intelligence. And the guy who's supplying you intelligence could be supplying more to the other side. It's all happens in that area.
And if the terrorists are able to surround this vehicle and shoot at it from all sides, and if they have access to Chinese-made armor-piercing bullets and rocket-propelled
So
grenades,
we hear, that's right.
So we hear. Then that's worrying, because this suggests the terrorists were very well prepared for what was happening.
They always are when they carry out. This is a big attack. It's very sad, that 5 Jawans were killed. And I feel more sad because 4 of them were Punjabis,
In the circumstances, the dropping of the guard is even worse.
Of course it is.
And to allow a solitary vehicle to go, even if it was only carrying goodies for iftar, in an area which you say was hostile, which is a playground for spies, with ISI agents in Suruncote, which is barely 5 miles away, that is close to carelessness, if not irresponsibility.
Now this thing about ISI agents in Surancourt, that's my hunch. I can't authenticate it. I'd like to clarify that. But yeah, it's quite
But
likely.
if a man who's head of RAW believes this is likely, it should have been in the army's mind and thinking as well.
It should have been. It should have been. You know,
And therefore this vehicle
in
should
the
not
past, there have been a number of attacks in Surancourt. Number of attacks. It's a vulnerable area.
All the more reason for this vehicle to not travel in a solitary fashion.
Right.
All the more reason for that sanitation of the route to have been much, much better done. If 90 minutes later you have a terror attack on a route you just sanitized, it clearly shows.
That area is very difficult to sanitize. Let me make this point also.
But clearly a bad job was done.
I think no job was done.
No job was
No
done.
job was done. It's a very difficult area. It's very difficult terrain. It's hostile, and a thick jungle. You know, when we talk of these gullies, it's basically jungle.
Let's now move from what happened, and I'll quickly sum up for the audience the 2-3 important things you said about the attack in the Bimber Gully area. Sanitization not done properly, the army drops its guard, a solitary vehicle should never have been sent on its own, the terrorists were well prepared. As you said on the phone, clearly they were 2-3 steps ahead of us. And it all happened in an area which is a playground for spies. Your hunch is that there are ISI agents in Surancourt. This is hostile territory. And yet, complacency led us to drop our guard, all of which is deeply worrying. Let's now come to the question about the PAFF, this anti-fascist front, the People's Anti-Fascist Front, which is a proxy for the Jaish-e-Mohammed.
That's right.
Is the ISI behind them?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So this is an ISI done thing.
I'd like to mention something here. It could be a coincidence, but I take you back to September 2019, to the UN, where Imran referred to India as a fascist front or a fascist country. And it may be a coincidence, but soon after that, this PAFF emerged. So there could be
a link to Imran or just inspired by his language?
Inspired by his language. I wouldn't like to say a link with Imran, but the ISI might have got the cue from there.
But you do believe there's a clear link between the PAFF and the ISI?
Oh, absolutely.
And therefore the ISI...
Like the Jaish, Jaish, Lashkar, these are ISI proxies. Yeah.
Why would the ISI have chosen this moment to carry out this attack? After all, for 2 years, and the Indian government has been saying this, the revived ceasefire has worked very well. I know there's infiltration carrying on, but the ceasefire has worked very well. Why at this moment of time would the ISI have done it?
See, there are always different narratives about everything between India and Pakistan. Now, the ceasefire may be working very well for us, but the Pakistanis might certainly have realized that it's not working so well for them. And Pakistan has been under a lot of pressure within Pakistan. Since the abrogation of 370, there are people in Pakistan who say, including retired generals, that Pakistan has done nothing to come out in support of the Kashmiri.
This is making up for it?
It could be. It could be making up for it.
To what extent is this an attempt to deflect attention from the turmoil in Pakistan, where the Supreme Court is at odds with the National Assembly and the government, the economy is tumbling, the opposition and the government are at odds with each other, elections are being demanded by Imran Khan and the Supreme Court denied and rejected by the government. There's complete turmoil. To what extent is this an attempt to deflect attention?
Could be. It's difficult to say. But I would rather think, there's another point I'd like to make. That I believe, again, I have no evidence, that quite often these big attacks which happen because of Pakistani frustrations in dealing with us. I think that attack on Parliament in 2001, I think, to my mind, would have been a result of the failure for the summit in Agra.
And this?
As I say, that nothing, first, Pakistan has done nothing. Second is that, at least the Pakistani narrative is that certain things were agreed to at the time of the ceasefire, and India has not delivered on those things.
So this is frustration as a result of India's non-delivery. What sort of things are you hinting at briefly?
Beg your pardon?
What are the things that were agreed at that weren't delivered?
I don't know, but there was talk of, restoration of statehood and things like that. I don't know, I don't have the details. But I did pick up some conversation here and there.
Let me put two specific things to you. This attack has happened just 3-4 weeks before a fairly important G20 meeting is to be held in Srinagar. As you say, if militancy and terrorism is reviving, doesn't this meeting present a sitting target, an inviting target? And in the circumstances, should the government reconsider holding it in Srinagar?
No, I think they should hold it in Srinagar. I think we should demonstrate that we are in control there. That's perfectly legitimate. But I would rather hold it in September, at the end of the tourist season, rather than at the peak of the tourist season. Because if something were to go wrong, then it'll disturb the whole tourist season. And
so the idea of holding it in Srinagar you agree with, but the timing you disagree with.
I would rather
not
say,
May, later.
I would say closer to September.
Closer to September. In other words, closer to the final summit of the G20.
Yeah. Now we are hearing that President Biden is also coming in September. And you can be sure when an American president comes that there will be some militant harkat, as we call it.
This is what happened when
President
Bill
Clinton came. That's right.
Chatti Singhpura.
That's right.
Your belief or your fear is that Biden's presence on Indian soil will be another moment the terrorists will try to exploit.
Yeah, that's right.
Another moment for Dhamaka to attract attention to their cause, embarrass India while Biden's in town and the world is looking at India.
This sort of thing happens.
Let me raise something else. The Express reports on Saturday, Thursday's attack comes against the backdrop of discussions between the military leadership and the government on a proposal to withdraw Rashtriya Rifle troops from the valley and let the CRPF fill the gap.
Did you say the valley?
Valley hinterland. Valley hinterland, yes.
No, the valley is different. But what happened is in Bhimber Gully is not the valley, it's in Jammu area. So there, the CRPF cannot function in those areas. No way. Even we know what has happened with the Rashtriya Rifles. And it is basically army-dominated, army country. And the CRPF can only be placed in the towns, maybe Surankot, Rajouri, Poonch, like that, but not in the difficult terrain which is
in the area where the attack happened, if the government is contemplating replacing...
No way. It can't happen. It can't happen. You cannot in that area replace the army or the Rashtriya Rifles with the CRPF. They are not competent to deal with it. The army is required there on the border. It is the border,
Even an army that critically let down its guard is still required there. The CRPF cannot replace it.
No way.
We're coming to the end of this interview. You're someone who has been head of RNAW, who understands Kashmir probably better than most people in the country.
I don't know about that.
What are your concerns over the next 6 to 8 months or 6 months to a year? Because remember, we have not only 2 summits coming up, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in July, the G20 in September, and then in exactly a year's time, national elections. So look down the road. What are your concerns in Jammu and Kashmir over the next year?
I think the most positive thing that I've heard, I'm hoping happens, and that is Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's visit during the SCO in Goa. I hope that happens because that could provide an opening between India and Pakistan. On the On the negative side, yes, if militancy picks up, and more than militancy, if terror picks up, then it's going to be. And you know, the situation in Pakistan doesn't augur well for us. That's why, if you recall, when Vajpayee went to Lahore and he visited the Minar-e-Pakistan, he said a strong, stable, prosperous Pakistan is in our interest. Today, Pakistan is in a big mess. And if, you know, I've said this, that the ISI is definitely behind this attack. But if these militant groups were to get out of Pakistani control, out of ISI control, then we are in for much worse days in Kashmir.
Explain that. Why?
Because then nobody will be in control. At least now, you see, where there's been a ceasefire, whenever infiltration has stopped or has come down, whenever militancy has come down, it is because of some degree, even if it is minimal, from Pakistan. And that is why, sir, I keep saying we need to talk to Pakistan.
If the Pakistani state collapses and the ISI loses control of these tanzeems and militancy groups, it will be much worse for us.
Then we will have mayhem.
Mayhem.
Mayhem, yeah.
My last question. Given how worried you are, and I won't repeat all the words you've used, but you've called it scary, you fear there could be worse to come, right? What are the steps the government should take?
I have repeatedly said, sir, but I think I'm in a minority of one, that the only way is to talk, to engage with Pakistan, to engage with the Kashmiris. Now we only have the mainstream to engage with. Please engage with them. Please engage with the PAGD. And there is a solution.
PAGD being Gupkar.
Gupkar. Now, that basically means the National Conference and the PDP, or the Abdullahs and Mehbooba sticking together. Whether they will or not at election time, I have my own doubts. But Delhi needs to engage. There is a solution. My friend Ajit Doval knows the solution. If anybody understands Kashmir, it is Doval. And if he were to work on it, he would find the answer.
What is the solution?
Revival of the political and democratic process, and talking.
You mean elections?
Elections, and talking to the Kashmiris, and talking quite openly. I know that there would be.
And the Pakistanis as well.
And the Pakistanis
How
as
do you
well.
know
But more importantly, our own people. Let's start with the Kashmiris.
How do you know Ajit Doval believes this is the right solution?
He's the only one who understands Kashmir. And he would like to do the right thing. He always does.
How do you know that?
But
how do you know that in his eyes this is the right thing?
I think I know Mr. Doval well enough that he understands it. And I'm sure that he would be talking. What is happening is.
But can I interrupt? He's been NSA for 8 years.
So the NSA's job, let me explain here, take a moment. The NSA's job is a very tricky one in our system. Because the NSA, in the view of the Union Home Minister, is always stepping on his toes, and vice versa. It was only Brajesh Mishra who was able to manage it, and he managed it because of his tight control. And he didn't bother too much about what the Deputy Prime Minister thought, because the Prime Minister was fully supportive of him, and he was running the country on behalf of the Prime Minister.
That's not true of Doval today.
That is not true because we have a very powerful Prime Minister today.
Home Minister.
Also Prime Minister. I think my sense is that he has the Prime Minister's support. But from time to time, the Home Minister can become an obstruction.
Is the Home
Because
Minister,
the Home Minister also is a very powerful man.
Are you suggesting that the Home Minister is the person that doesn't want to hold early elections?
Possibly.
But you are certain, or at least as certain as you can be, that if Doval has a free hand,
Yeah.
early elections would be held.
Let me say, he is the only one who understands Kashmir. He knows the solution to Kashmir. When I say solution, there is no everlasting solution. He knows the way to move forward in Kashmir, and he would provide the best way out.
Are you therefore also saying that the man who should be given control of Kashmir policy under the Modi government is Doval?
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that.
And you remain certain that he would be in agreement with your belief that the way forward is talk to Pakistan, talk to, more importantly, the mainstream in India, and hold early elections.
He doesn't need to be in agreement with me. He's smarter than me, but he'll find the way out. And there is a way which is staring us in the face. Talk to the right people, hold elections. You'll get a split. Most probably, you'll get a split verdict as we had in 2014.
It seems to most people that the reason why elections aren't being held is because if they were, the Gupkar alliance would win. And the government doesn't want the Gupkar to win. On the other hand, the Gupkar winning would be the best solution from Kashmir's point of view.
That's right. That's right.
So we're at odds. The best solution is Gupkar winning. That's the one thing the government doesn't want. As a result, elections aren't being held.
We are at odds. But the odd thing here is that without Delhi's intervention, at election time, the Gupkar alliance might split.
Engineered by Delhi?
Without Delhi's involvement. That's what I'm trying to say.
And if it splits?
It will split because there are people in the lower down in the national. This Gupkar alliance is being held together by just one man.
Farooq Abdullah.
Who believes that togetherness is more important than any election result. Now, at election time, so many things come up. Who's going to get which seat? Why are you going to leave that seat for the PDP? This is our seat. So many things happen. And the lower down people in the National Conference may not want an alliance with the PDP, which is exactly what Delhi wants.
Are we then looking at an election which will be held?
It won't be held.
No, let me finish. Are we looking at a possibility of election which will be held only when Gupkar splits? So that, secondly, the government can hope for a split verdict whereby you have the BJP as an ally with the biggest mainstream party in government. A replication in some sense of 214, 215.
You have a chance. You see, there are only two options in Kashmir. The arithmetic is such, we fiddled with the constituencies, that doesn't make so much difference. The point is that the arithmetic is such that you will not have one party get a single majority. So there has to be an alliance. The most natural alliance would be between the National Conference and the Congress, provided the Congress can get the required number of seats in Jammu. Now the Congress looks for seats in the valley, which the National Conference is not very happy about. It wants Congress support in Jammu. Now if Congress cannot provide that support, and it is the BJP which gets the maximum seats in Jammu, then what are the options?
NC BJP government.
Who knows?
Is that something you believe Mr. Doval would be willing to deliver?
Of course. He can deliver. Not a question of willing to. He's the only one who can deliver.
And he can deliver it, A, by helping to break up the Gupkar alliance, and B,
I'm saying, I'm going to the extent of repeating and saying that please don't break the Gupkar alliance.
It'll happen on its own.
It can happen on its own. It's more likely it will happen on its own. If you talk to the right people, it will certainly happen.
My last question.
I'm saying this again, sir. If you talk to the right people, it will automatically happen. We are not talking to anybody.
Who are the right people?
The mainstream.
In other words, when the government starts talking to the Abdullahs and the Muftis, the Gupkar alliance will start fracturing.
It will happen at election time.
When do you think that election will be?
Certainly not in 23. Because two things. We don't have the confidence, and secondly, Mr. Doval is not fully in charge.
So my last question, as we look down the road a year, you see a troubled future for Kashmir?
Yeah, it doesn't look good. You know, when people go silent, when people say, we don't expect anything, and you sense a sense of hopelessness, it's not comforting. It doesn't give you confidence.
It's worrying, and this is why you say it's scary.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's scary.
It's scary. It's scary.
I want to thank you, Mr. Dulat, for this interview. I want to repeat
Thank you,
from
sir. Thank
memory
you.
some of the important things you've said, because I think it's important they should linger with the audience. You said, what happened on Thursday is a wake-up call that should ring alarm bells in Delhi. You're worried this is a sign that there is worse to happen, worse to follow. You also believe that the army let down its guard. You believe that, in fact, the sanitization was done poorly. Worst of all, the area where the attack happened is a playground for spies. It's hostile territory. More importantly, your hunch is that there could be ISI agents in Surankot, which is just 5-6 kilometers from where the attack happened. And worst of all, you're particularly worried about the fact that militancy has gone underground. It's invisible and subterranean. The people who were responsible for the targeted killings are walking around. They haven't been caught. More may have joined them. And intelligence, as a result, has become not as good as it should be. All put together, this is why the next year looks scary.
It does. It does. It does. And if I might add that, gradually we've seen since the abrogation that the radicals, the Jamaatis have been gaining in strength. And they are all over now. And if they are all over, then the ISI could be all over. And what Kashmiris are beginning to say, and when I say Kashmiris, it is not only in Kashmir, but also in Jammu and possibly in the rest of the country, that Sheikh Abdullah committed a huge blunder by not going with Jinnah. This is being said, sir. And this
is particularly worrying.
It is worrying.
Because it attacks at the very root the linkage between Kashmir and the rest of the country.
That's right. That's right.
And
we forget history. We forget history, but we should never forget history.
And this is why our advice to the government is, it makes sense to hold that G20 meeting in Srinagar, but not in May. Do it later, closer. And you're also saying to them, wait for Biden's visit. That could be another flashpoint, another tempting target for the terrorists to do something to attract international attention.
And I'm also saying, sir, that please revive the political and democratic process and hold elections as quickly as possible. And then let the verdict take care of itself.
And Doval is the man.
And Doval is the man who understands all this. Okay. He may not be in agreement with me. We don't need to be in agreement. But he understands it. Possibly today he should understand it much better than me. So he is the man. He is the right man.
Mr. Dulat, thank you very much for this comprehensive interview.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.